Hello, everyone. I hope you are well. Wanted to do a quick live stream regarding some news that I saw that came across my feed for CNBC. And it's quite disturbing, unfortunately. It's more of what I've been talking about in my videos, but it's rather startling to see what I have been talking about and predicting, I guess if you want to use that word, is coming to fruition in terms of the government spending. And, I've tried to remain optimistic that we would get some pushback from Americans who are educated or understand that you just cannot print prosperity. And the more government control over the economy, the worse our economy is going to be, not the better. Our economy isn't going to magically produce more goods and services if we give control to the government, i.e. Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, fill in the blank with any of your favorite central planners. So here's what I'm talking about. This article is, it's shocking. It's disheartening, but at the same time, it's what you would expect. And it's just, although I was expecting it, it's just very disheartening and frustrating to see it actually playing out in front of your own eyes. Although we all knew the probability was extremely high that we would see this very, very soon. Let's check out the article. So, title: Americans support Biden's spending and want him to spend more, polls show. So let's just replace the term spending with economic distortions. Americans support Biden distorting or destroying, maybe that's a better word, our economy, and want him to destroy the economy even more, polls say. Multiple recent polls show Americans broadly back the big ticket spending proposals that have President Joe Biden's first 100 days in office. More Americans say they approve than disapprove of the $1.9 trillion cerveza sickness relief bill Biden signed into law in March. Survey also finds $2 trillion infrastructure plan very popular. And why shouldn't it be? If the government can just print up money and we never have to pay it back, we never have to worry about inflation, we never have to worry about anything, why not just send everyone money every single month and we'll just be rich? Why are we preventing ourselves? Why not just eradicate poverty today? Why not? Why don't we just send everyone $1 million a month? And then we'll be the richest country on the planet Earth. We don't have to go to work. And we can just enjoy life. Like, what are we doing? Why are we getting in the way? Why are we getting in our own way? You know what's interesting? And obviously I'm being facetious there. When I was in Tucson, what was this, 4 weeks, a month ago, something like that. There's an area, there's a park, and it's just south of the downtown area. And I'm not sure what the park is called, but it's it's where all the homeless people hang out. And back when I was in Tucson in like 2017, helping out a family member, you would see a few homeless people there. You'd drive by the park and see a couple guys drinking 40s or, with their little tent or their little shopping cart or something like that. But now you don't just see 2 or 3 guys in the homeless person park. You see 100 homeless people. You see neighborhoods, tent cities of homeless people. So help me understand how this works. We are literally sending people, quote unquote, money. Let's refer to them as dollars because it's really not money. We are sending people dollars, but yet the amount of Americans that are homeless is increasing, not decreasing. So how does that work? If dollars, just more dollars, make us all rich, then how do we have any homeless people, let alone more homeless people? You see how you really can't reconcile those two facts, that we're sending people more dollars, but yet we have more homeless people. Shouldn't it be the opposite? If dollars equaled wealth, it would be the opposite. We would send people dollars and we would have less homeless people. You would think that someone out there would just kind of scratch their head and say, I wonder why every time I go down to a city, I see 100 times more homeless people than I did 2 years ago. But yet everyone's getting free money. As he turns the page on his first 100 days in office, Biden is gearing up to unveil yet another massive spending package, this one aimed at addressing family-related issues. Because we know the government, if they just got rid of these shackles that constrain them from fixing all of our problems, if we just gave them all the power, so they didn't need votes and they didn't have to agree on anything, if we just had like a dictatorship, but just the guy we want in power to do whatever he wants, whenever he wants, nothing constrained them whatsoever. Think of how great that would be. They'd solve all of our problems, right? I mean, because obviously government can solve the problem of it can eradicate poverty. It can give everyone health care. The government can give everyone child care. It can give everyone college. The government can give us whatever we need. So why don't we just give the person in charge the power to do whatever they want, whenever they want? And then we can just solve all of these problems that we've been burdened with forever. Jeez. Look at this. Biden's handling of the cerveza sickness. 69% approve, 27% disapprove. Jeez. Handling. Here's a national poll. 2 in 3 support Biden's spending plans. They also support upcoming plan to expand healthcare, childcare, and other support. Again, the government can't do anything. The government in and of itself doesn't do anything. They don't produce anything. They can't expand healthcare. They can't expand child care. The only thing they can do is send their cronies with some sort of mild intention that they sell you to buy your votes. They sell you on the idea to buy your votes. Here's where we get into where they talk about the average American and responding to these polls, and it just gets, it's disturbing. Polls show Americans still see the cerveza sickness as one of the most pressing issues facing the country. How? I thought we solved that, didn't we? I mean, last time I checked, I see it on my YouTube feed constantly being shoved down my throat that we've got all these great vaccines. So if we've got all of these great vaccines, then what's the problem? Why is there still a pressing issue facing the country? You would think that the general public would just start scratching their head and saying, okay, so we've got all these vaccines, we've got all these people that are supposedly don't have to worry about the cerveza sickness anymore, but yet we still have to deal with it. We still have to deal with all these government restrictions. Why? And oh, by the way, why is it that when you look at the statistics for Florida, where pretty much you have zero compliance, not as zero compliance as Idaho. Idaho, there's just nothing. But you have a large state as far as population, like Florida, and you have the UFC. I watched UFC live Saturday night. I'm sure many of you watched it. It was from Jacksonville, a packed arena, sold out. We had the Super Bowl here. You go down the street, you go to a grocery store, you'll see very few people, at least the area I'm in, wearing masks. Yet how does Florida have very similar statistics to other states that are far more draconian? My point, it's only a pressing issue because the politicians and the media is making it a pressing issue. Based on their own logic, i.e., we have all these great vaccines, it should not be an issue. So what are we doing here? But here's where it gets really crazy. They also are more likely to look to government for solutions. According to NBC's latest, 55% of respondents said the government should do more to solve problems and help meet people's needs, versus 41% who said it's doing too much. I mean, are you kidding me? What's shocking is that there's 55% of Americans that believe government should do more. How can they do more? Last year we had a $5 trillion deficit. Government spending is 60% of GDP. How much more do you want? I mean, what do you want? Russia? You want communist Russia? Because we're getting damn close with government spending being 60% of GDP. And then what's even more staggering is that there's people that believe the government can solve problems. What problems can government solve? Help me out. I mean, anyone? What problems can government solve by themselves? Nothing. They can't do anything. They just take resources from productive people and allocate resources inefficiently, mostly to unproductive people and entities. They can take all of this money, or they can create inflation to go to war and kill people. I guess if you see the world's population as a problem, I guess they can solve that. Because they can drop bombs, they can just blow things up, they can destroy cities, they can destroy lives, they can kill millions and millions and millions of people. We've seen that throughout history. So I guess that's one problem they can solve. They can solve the problem of human beings thriving and human life. They can solve that problem. But honestly, these people just, again, let's think about what government spending is. Government spending is monetary heroin. So what these people are saying is we want the government to inject the economy with more heroin to solve the problems of our economy being addicted to heroin in the first place. And I love it when politicians take credit for solving problems that they know damn well they didn't do anything. If they just misallocated resources, they create malinvestment, they distort the economy, they destroy the economy. I mean, think about how many, well, let's go back to the homeless people. If we're sending all these homeless people or people, the poor, everyone, stimmy checks constantly, if we've increased unemployment benefits, how are there more homeless people now? Just think that one through. Why? Because you have skyrocketing drug use is one of the main reasons. You have massive depression, mental illness. I wonder where that came from. I don't know, maybe locking people in their own homes for over a year and destroying hundreds of thousands of small businesses. Maybe that had something to do with it. Maybe now paying people to stay at home to where they're like we said yesterday, we have a whole population of young men who are completely rudderless. They most likely grow up in a single parent household, so they have no strong, positive male role model in their lives. They don't have a job. They don't have any skills. They haven't learned anything, and they're as fragile as a newborn. They need safe spaces. The only thing they care about is their feelings, playing video games, and then just going to McDonald's. So is it any wonder that we have more homeless people due to drug addiction, due to depression, due to mental illness? And a lot of these homeless people are homeless as a result of government trying to solve problems. And yet we're just wanting government to do even more of that. So you can see the writing on the wall. The more government tries to solve problems by just sending people checks in the mail, the more the population of that homeless park in Tucson is going to increase. So then it talks about the specific polls they gave, questions they asked, and what the percentages were. But then they highlighted, but Americans overwhelmingly support nearly all the details of the plan when presented with them individually. So meaning that Biden's, we should spend money on this, we should spend money on this, we should spend money on this. Every single American said, yep, you bet. And why? Because Americans don't understand what wealth is. They don't get it. And they think that the government can just create dollars with no downside at all, none. So if they can create dollars with no downside, then why are we, the general public, or why is anything getting in their way of solving all the what is getting in their way of solving all financial problems? See, that's, most people think that way. Well, the government has limitless dollars, so if they wanted to, if the politicians could just agree on something, then we could really get things done and we could get the economy going again. If we could just have them make more and more dollars and spend them, then we wouldn't have anything to worry about, because obviously there's no downside to giving people dollars and creating them out of thin air. That's how most people think. It's just the lack of common sense. It's not even common sense. It's the, I mean, this is third grade stuff that we're talking about. You go to any 10-year-old and ask them, if I give you more pieces of paper, are you going to be richer or poorer? If I give you this stack of just notebook paper, are you going to be rich? They're going to say, no. I can draw. I might be able to do some more. I can color a little bit more. Maybe I can take some notes, or I can do some math. But I can't go out and buy more stuff. Yet somehow, when the government sends us their pieces of paper, people just think that they're immediately rich. I mean, and society as a whole is richer. So now what's going to happen with the Biden administration? Obviously, they're seeing these polls, and we know that they're going to do anything that they can to buy votes. That's what great politicians do. So the Biden administration presumption that spending programs are popular is borne out by these polls. So what's going to happen? It's going to give the Biden administration positive feedback that, hey, boy, the more spending we do, the more popular we are. So let's just spend more and spend more and spend more. This is what you're going to see. And this is why Lynn Alden is on the inflation side. This is why I'm on the inflation side long term. I don't know what's going to happen in the next year or so, but boy, long term. This is why, meaning 5 years and beyond, I'm thinking that we get substantial consumer price inflation, because the politicians, we've given them a sip of the power, and they're going to want more and more and more. And not only are they going to achieve that additional power by giving you free stuff, they're also going to do it by taking away your freedom. You see, they give you the bread and circus on the left hand, and on the right hand, they go behind your back while you don't even notice it, and they take away the freedom. It's the deal with the devil. You see, the devil comes to you and says, hey, listen, I'll give you these stimmy checks, and you don't have to worry about working anymore. I'll give you this college. I'll give you this medical care. I'll give you all these things, child care, and you don't have to worry about it. All you have to do is give me more power and let me take away that freedom that you didn't really need anyway. And if you want to know if we're going to be getting UBI in the future, or the probabilities, read this. The key to maintaining this level of support is whether Americans can point to direct benefits in their own lives once those plans are put into action. Think that through. How will Americans see direct benefits through stimulus packages? There's only one way. It's if they get checks in the mail. Hello, universal basic income, and hello, central bank digital currency. So one of and this is the proposals right now. Keep in mind, the more money they spend and the more people assume there's no downside to it, the more power they give them, the more freedom they give up, the more goodies and freebies that people get, the more the politicians are going to spend, and the more they're going to take away their freedom, your freedom, and the more power they're going to receive. The proposal will reportedly focus on expanding, and I mean the proposal, the latest proposal, because we're going to get more and more and more of them. I can almost assure you. The proposal will reportedly focus on expanding childcare, paid leave, universal pre-K education, because that's what we need. What we need to do is we need to make the poor and middle class more dependent on the government. That would be fantastic. And then what we need to do is we need to take less responsibility from the nuclear family. You see, so we need to set up this situation where we don't even really, you don't really even have to raise your kids. You don't have to worry about that anymore. Just have the kids, and then just once you have them, kind of enjoy them for a couple years, or kind of do the dirty work when you're changing the diapers for maybe 2-3 years, and then just go ahead and give them to the government. And then you and your husband or you and your wife can go ahead and just keep living your lives and kind of just wave at your kids when you're driving by every once in a while, or maybe take them to a soccer practice here and there on the weekends. But then Monday through Friday, you don't have to worry about them. Just give your kids to the government, and the government will solve all the problems. Don't worry about it. This is just complete insanity. And then, of course, we've talked about this recently, but what's also going to happen, reports say Biden may seek to fund the plan by raising taxes. Shocker there. So what you need to ask yourself, because most of you understand by watching my videos that wealth is a measurement of how society produces, or how many goods and services a society can produce efficiently, right? It's not a measure of how many dollars you have, and let's say it the real way. It's not a measurement of how many bank liabilities we have in the commercial banking system. How can that be? You think that somehow we're going to get rich just by increasing the number of bank liabilities we have? And then you have to ask yourself a question: why aren't Venezuelans rich? Because they got tons of bolivars. The average person would just say, oh, because their currency isn't worth anything. Or we have the dollar. Okay, well, why? Why isn't their currency worth anything? You'd think the average American might put those pieces of the puzzle together every once in a while. But my point is, when you're going through this article and when you're reading these things, these proposals for childcare and pay leave, all these things. Listen, I don't think that childcare is a bad thing or paid leave, but it's something that the employee should negotiate with the employer. And if we would just allow the free market to work, then you would have employers competing against each other, producing more goods and services. You wouldn't have the employers competing against the government, producing less and less and less stuff, right? So when you're going through any of this, what I'm talking about in this video, or any of these paragraphs, anything I've highlighted, just ask yourself a simple question. Does this produce more goods and services? Or will this produce less goods and services? Will the government expanding childcare, paid leave, universal pre-K education. And remember, the government can't do this. The government can just take $1 over here and give a nickel. Just flip that nickel to these programs, and then they just take the 95 cents and put it in their back pocket. The cronies, the financial insiders, the political insiders. So even if you're someone that is a proponent of this, you got to remember, you're not getting 100 cents on the dollar. You're getting 5 cents on the dollar, if you're lucky. And even that 5 cents that goes to whatever you think the cause should be is going to be distributed to people just to get kickbacks to the politicians. It's just going to be distributed to the insiders. That's how this works. But again, just ask yourself, does the government doing this, does the government trying to solve this problem through just creating more dollars out of thin air and going further and further into debt and increasing the national debt, deficit spending, Fed monetizing, is that going to allow or incentivize our economy to create more stuff or less stuff? Is increasing taxes on capital gains, is that going to promote productivity, more productivity or less productivity? I mean, they're pretty, again, we could ask a 10-year-old this and they'd get 90% of these questions correct. I mean, it's just, this is no-brainer stuff right here. But yet somehow the average American cannot connect these dots. It's unbelievable. And see, here's where I really get concerned. You think that Americans just always, why not want free stuff? No. It's a mental shift that we've been conditioned by all this propaganda and by the school system. And oh, by the way, the government raising your kids for you. Let's not forget that. That now, or excuse me, in the past, multi-trillion-dollar spending plans were not always viewed as political winners. He compared the current moment to the 2008 GFC, saying that when leaders were crafting recovery plans then, there was a recognition leaders were crafting recovery plans. Give me a break. like politicians can craft anything. They can't craft their way out of a paper sack, let alone instigate or let alone execute some sort of quote unquote recovery. The individuals in society, the average Joe and Jane, they're the ones that craft a recovery by going out and producing. There was a recognition that $1 trillion is a threshold we don't want to cross. These are the politicians talking back at the GFC. But the COVID packages first passed by Trump blew that away. Forget the trillion. We're going trillion. That's crazy talk. Trillions that's child's play. We're doing 4 trillion, baby. 10 trillion, 20 trillion. If 1 trillion is good, isn't 10 trillion great? So then this political, looks like expert, once you cross the threshold, it becomes normalized. See, that's the key here, guys. Most people have no sense of $1 trillion of anything, much less $1 trillion. So what's happening is now $1 trillion is just, oh yeah, trillion, that's nothing. I mean, the Fed guaranteed $1 trillion a day in repo market back in 2020. So, I mean, the last stimulus package, 2 trillion, maybe do a 4 trillion. You see what's going to happen is the next one's going to be 10 trillion. The next one's going to be 20 trillion. If society as a whole believes that 2 trillion is good and there's no downside to that, if that's the majority of Americans, well, isn't 10 trillion fantastic? You see, and we've already crossed the threshold. This has already become normalized, to this individual's point, Ellis. So once it's become normalized, we've been conditioned to accept this. In my opinion, and again, there are no certainties, only probabilities, but the probability of government spending continuing to go parabolic is extremely, extremely high when you think through how society views the government and how they view government spending and the creation of new currency units, new dollars, new commercial bank liabilities. And excuse me, I misspoke right there. Did I say the word think? I believe I did. Whenever I'm talking about the general public or any of these politicians or any of the things discussed in this article, I should never, ever use the word think. Because trust me, there is no thinking going on whatsoever with the American public right now. None. So that's what we got. I wish I had some better news, but it's, I feel like it doesn't make me, what I'm trying to say is it doesn't give me a lot of pleasure to come out here and say, hey guys, we got all these problems and look at what's happening now. The problems are getting worse. But what do you want me to do? You want me to lie to you? No one wants that that's on this live stream right now. No one wants that watches any of my channels, the George Gammon channel, the Rebel Capitalist channel. They might not agree with everything I say, but I think at the very least, they want me to tell them the truth or what I believe to be the truth. And obviously, I don't get it right all the time. But I think that the truth is we are on a very slippery slope right now in the United States. And I don't think that's an exaggeration. I don't think that's fear-mongering. I think that's just opening your eyes and seeing reality. And if people don't agree with that, I think they're just whistling by the graveyard. I just don't think they're paying attention. It's ignorance is bliss, right? The government's giving me money. I'm just going to enjoy it, go out and spend it, and just numb my mind with more drugs, pills, alcohol, and I'm just going to forget about it. And that's why we see the park in Tucson with hundreds of homeless people instead of 5 or 6 or 10 homeless people, even though we're giving those people dollars. You see, giving people dollars is not making them rich. As a society, it's making us poor. All right, so let me do some shout outs, guys. I'm going to go for a jog and clear my head, and that always puts me in a better frame of mind when I can get out and do some cardio, work up a sweat, release those endorphins, if that's what they are. So we've got Wayne Smith. Thanks for hanging out with me. Miku, Tyra, Yam. Oh boy, it's really skipping today, guys. Sorry about that. Value Stonks, Jim Wolf, Justin Fats, Angelique is in the house. Lloyd Braun, Nerwin Aguilar, Alex Z, Mike's Mikado, maybe? Nerwin, oh, I said Nerwin. Let's see who else we got. Jeff McCarthy, Peter Kinner, Arnold Voslo, Mayo Rodriguez, All-Nighter Hider, Magda W, Pop Basketball. They're all James 100, Steve Odland, Peter Frowen. I saw him earlier. Thanks, Peter, for hanging out on all the live streams. Holly and Dora, CC Jelly, Silver Money Dude. All right, guys, enjoy the rest of your evening. And check out the interview tonight on the George Gammon channel. That's going to be with myself and Mr. Rollo Tomasi. He's going to, I think, maybe shock some of you, maybe startle some of you. He's probably going to piss some of you off, but he's going to drop a lot of truth bombs and a lot, although his specialty obviously is psychology and dynamics between men and women. He doesn't really get into economics too much, but I try to go through that interview and extract a lot of economic gold nuggets from understanding all of the research he has done over the decades. So if you're interested on demographics, or if you're interested on the future of the U.S. economy or social unrest, the creation of goods and services, then you're going to want to listen to this interview and hear it all the way to the end, even though it might irritate you a little bit, or it'll challenge your belief systems. That's for sure. But in a good way, All right, guys, we'll see you on the next video.